Hi, you're here with Dawn Elgin, contrarian soul guide and visionary mystic, host of Sovereignty Rising. And today we are joined by Carol Luck, the amazing human being, one of my most favorite people in the entire world. She is a psychotherapist, a best-selling published author of two of the most amazing books called The Yes Code and Yes, Thank You. And I am so excited that you're here. Carol is also a founding EFT tapping master, which is how we came together. And I've been working with Carol for almost a year now, which is hard to believe. And she has absolutely been monumental in supporting my healing journey and this releasing and letting go. And I'm so excited to have Carol back on our show. Carol and I have agreed to do a bunch of these because we just love chattering together. Today, we're going to talk channeling. Carol, welcome. Thank you so much for being part of the show. I really appreciate you in every single way.
Thank you, Dawn. I love talking with you about all our fun topics, and I love you and love being with you. And I hope your audience really hears what we're saying because it's exciting stuff. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's jump into what is channeling? And because I think channeling means something different sometimes to people and they're like, what is that? Like they expect us to be out of our bodies and not coherent. So what is channeling to you?
to me, it's having a clearer, more direct line of communication to source. Now, I'm going like this up as if source is only up, but you know what I mean. So, part of what opened it up for me was calming down all the anxiety and all the chatter and all the noise and all the distraction. And then it was like, oh, pop, guess what? I'm channeling more information. To me, it's, a lot of people say, oh, are you talking to my dead grandmother? No, I'm not. But I'm getting very clear information that I can't get another way. So there's new
Yeah.
information coming through. How about you? What is your definition?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. Yeah, I mean, I think of us as we are all, each of us is a channel and we are a tethering, or a conduit between ether and earth. And we have all of this energy that's available to us, inspiration, inspired ideas, the inspired breath, right? So we have this available to us. But like you, I think we need to move the chatter out of the way. Often we don't hear it because our ego, our psyche is so loud that we don't realize there's this other information that's available to us. And so, yeah, I think of channeling as that direct line of communication when we're really connected into the quantum field, when we're really connected into source directly.
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
people will say, how did you know that? That's how I first figured it out. I thought I was just experienced tapping with everybody, seeing patterns. I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a hypnotist. Okay, this is easy. And people say, no, no, no. How did you know that? I'm like, I thought you told me. They're like, didn't tell you any of that. And when you're calm and grounded and peaceful, more information comes through that then you
Yeah.
deliver to the client or shape something around an intervention for someone. And that's how I got it. Because people, I would just say, oh, no, no, that's just because I've been doing this for a long time. And they would say, no, no, you're getting additional information.
Absolutely. And it's funny because you say that I always had a real and we talked about this last time, just the two of us, about I was really struggling with the word channel because there's a lot of channelers out there. Some are very authentic and some are less, we'll just say. And so it's kind of weird. And some people, we don't realize there's an option. There's an option to stay totally conscious and be present as this information comes in. And for some people, it's like they go out of the way and something else comes in and takes over. And so they're no longer consciously in control. And so I think that's where there's different types of channeling, but channel in itself just means that we're a channel for source energy or for a voice to come through us. And so depending on what that choice, I guess, is. Does that make sense?
Yes, because I think the others can scare people. I've had people say, well, you're not going to leave your body. Leave your body. First of all, I don't tell people I'm channeling, right? It just happens. Second of all, no, I'm not leaving anything. I'm just more peaceful, stable, and grounded and clear. And the information comes through me. But I think the other what you're describing, people, getting out of their body and another entity comes in or whatever. I'm probably not saying the right words. It can spook people, and they can say, I want to talk to you." Well, you are talking, and I'm talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm with you. When I'm working in energy work, my the way that I was taught is kind of the story. There was an old medicine man, and he was called Hollow Bone, and he was world renowned for being a healer. And when they asked him, why are you called Hollow Bone, and he said, because I hollow myself out so that spirit can just work through me. And I remember hearing that when I was first just training in body code. And I was like, "Oh, okay, got it. So my job is to hollow myself out, get out of the way so that the information can come through." Because when I'm doing that work, I'm purposely opening and interacting with somebody else's subconscious. So trying to get pull that information. And then once I started doing it from there, I started to notice although I was already channeling even with friends, like if I got really quiet, somebody was coming in, more and more people started to come over and they were like, "Oh, you're a bit of an oracle." And I was like, "It's a weird word." And they're like, "No, like you'll just," and all of a sudden they'll ask a question. And as soon as they watch me kind of tilt and look up to
Yeah.
the left,
Yeah.
and it's not like up, like you said, it's not like up. It's like you're like kind of moving screens. And so you're like pulling information from, not in here. And so we're pulling this information into us or opening to it, I guess, really, and allowing it. And once I understood, that we each have our own bioelectromagnetic field or aura, if we want to go into the woo woo words. And so within that field, our spirit, our soul is our body. It's not contained within our body. We're contained within our spirit, within our expanded self. And so that is now being measured scientifically at over a mile in diameter, which means all of the people in within a mile of me, not only is my energy able to affect them, but I'm also, if I open to it, able to gather information that is like shared consciousness or unity consciousness. And so we can pull information from that field of energy. If I'm with a person in a session, and this is probably where you get something similar at least, is all of a sudden it's like I open up purposely, I open my field, they open theirs, and we're linked. And now all of a sudden information comes through, maybe it's I've got resentment coming up at 13 years old, and they're like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. And all of a sudden I'll just get the word sister. And I'm like, do you have a sister? They're like, how'd you know that? And I'm like, does that resonate for you now? And they're like, yep, got it. And I'm like, perfect. And I do like the word entity. And so if you've not used that word before, people, I want you to think of it this way. Everything is an entity. So we are conscious beings and we are embodied right now. So we're an embodied entity. And an unembodied entity would be a spirit or a soul, a consciousness that is not in this moment inhabiting a body. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And within that, we also have like our soul, which is an entity. It's an entity only of present time. And then we also have our ego, which is our identification with form, our psyche, which is a second entity. And so there's usually about three of us that are hanging out all the time together. And so, some people can't shut that down, but that's another entity that can kind of take over and we become habitual, or people will say unconscious, but I don't love that languaging because it sounds like we don't have the power. We do. We just need to become aware again. Right. And then we have like a pain body. It'd be the languaging that I use quite often, or that the subtle body, the energy of mind and emotion, that the pain body, the shadow aspect of it, that can also rear its ugly head and make us get caught into loops and patterns, which is where like tapping and energy work comes in, is this releasing of the pain body, the releasing of the shadow aspects so that we can become aware, calm, like you say, quiet again, and get this access. Does that
Where
resonate for you?
Yes, where do you feel it, see it, hear it, or get it? Because yes, the pain body and the aura and all of that, right? I know it in my knower.
Mm,
So I wish I could see stuff. I don't know why. I think that's really cool that people can see stuff, right? I think I do some combination of hearing and feeling it in my gut. So when someone says, "Well, how'd you know that?" I don't know. I just felt like saying it was guilt because I think that's what it is. And of course, I think it's my experience, but it's not. I'm getting information. So where do you get it? In other words,
mm,
is it a full body
yes.
thing or do you hear it or you see it or
No. So I'm with you. I wish I could see it. I continuously go back to this. When I was a kid, I could see, shadows. So and then that really freaked my family out when I was about 15 years old. My aunt came down and I was playing with, a little boy that wasn't there, and there's a whole family event that went around that, and they were very unhappy with the situation, and I used to be able to see, shadows, like, um I would say, not kind energy that would be around or in people, and that freaked people out, and so I shut it off at 15, and I've never seen again. Every so often, I'll see a glimmer, I would call it, and so, shortly after my mom died, I'd be, like, doing something, and I would just literally see her in full form, like, just out of the corner of my eye, and that is one of the few times of seeing. I don't hear either unless I have a very specific guardian or guide. It's a very booming male voice, and it usually means pick your shit together. Like just pull it together. Like this is enough. If I'm in fear mode too much, then I'll get this really booming voice. For me, when it's annoying, it's annoying. I'm claircognizant and clairsentient. So I'll sense where things are in somebody's body. If I'm like, it's kind of, we were just talking before where you know where to touch, you know where to go. But it is a knowing. It's like the best I can explain to people is, when you recall a memory and you're like, oh, what is that? And then the name pops back. That's what it's like for me all the time.
Mhm, mhm.
And so, and if I just stay open without any expectations, I can usually get it like 90% of the time. I actually like have to shut down in certain area, like certain places. Like if I go into a store, I need to like close my gates to not be overwhelmed by what's happening, or in a hospital.
Yeah,
I close my
yeah.
gates.
I just had an idea. Off screen, you and I are gonna tap to be able to see.
I love
I
this.
just I just got that. That's what we're gonna be doing about ourselves, right? I mean, it's ridiculous that I think I should see or I want to see because I think it's so cool because I don't know, I know people who see. Forget it. They wanna feel in their tummy the way I do. They want the sentient whatever. We always want we always want the other what the other person is getting, but, we will use tapping on that for both of us.
Yes. And so for those of you guys listening, clairs, so the clairs are like our senses that are non-physical. So we have our physical realm senses where we can see, touch, taste, hear, perception. And then we also have our non-physical senses, which a lot of times we would call them like intuition. And so clairvoyant to have non-physical eye seeing. You can sometimes see energy. I have a client that can see energy even around things like even on a curtain rod. She can see like the energy at the ends. And so she can see, yeah. So I'm always like, how cool is that? I have a couple of them that can actually see unembodied beings. And I'm always like, well, that's cool, but that's probably freaks you out sometimes. And then hearing, clairaudient. So then you get whispers or you hear things. Sometimes that's also people get confused if they think they have tinnitus, and ringing in the ears left to right can mean different things. Claircognizant, as I was just saying, is like this knowing. So we're cognizant. So think cognitive. And clairsentient is a feeling sense. And then there are people who are clair empathic. And so it's beyond just having empathy, because empathy, as my understanding, the more I research lately, empathy as we think of it in modern day is more of a trauma response where we take on the emotions of somebody else because it makes us feel more connected or more belonging. Like there's something else beyond why we would take somebody else's energy, because we don't, it's not healthy, it's not natural to take on somebody's emotions. But claire empathic would mean like, and those people tend to have a hard time in big groups in certain environments.
Yes.
They really can sense people's emotions, and it can really overwhelm them if they're not super grounded. And as I said, close the gates. And so these spirit gates where we take this information in through in our bodies.
Well, you need boundaries. If you're gonna do channeling work, you need really good boundaries, and someone who's too empathic, right? There are no boundaries. There's no, "That's yours, this is mine." It's like they get flooded with all the emotions from everybody around them. They cannot go to the grocery store. Not good, right? Can't go to a crowded place,
Exactly.
right? So we have to develop at the same time we're developing this ability to be so quiet and so still and so trusting that information comes through. We also have to know when to turn it on, off, boundaries. That's not mine, that's not yours, which is not getting into the ego left brain. The ego gets a bad name, but the left brain that says I got to do it this way or force it this way or it should be this or I think it's not about thinking. We're not thinking when we're channeling.
Yes. Yes. And I agree with you. I think like it's the hardest thing with ego, and sometimes it gets called psyche. Like everybody uses a different word, right? And so you're trying to figure like ego itself just means identification with form. And so, but there's this other, it's almost like the pain body. Like there's this other side where it loops and it lives in the past and it's an entity of only timeline. So where our soul lives in present, the ego in terms of personality only lives in past and future. So, because it can only based off of other information. And I agree with you. I think like we have ego because we're a human being. And so we have to have some identification with
It's
form,
good.
right?
It's a good thing to
So,
have an ego, right? And that's how we navigate the world,
yes.
right? If you've got past experiences that traumatized you, you do need to know how to be safe. If you sense certain people that aren't safe, that's a good, issue that you've brought forward. But we get too much in the future and afraid of the future. And what if this is going to happen and this is going to be terrible? You know what? The problem with our world and people and human beings is we're not present. Being present doesn't feel safe to people. Being in our bodies often doesn't feel safe. So we are past over there in your business, in drama, in the future, right? And that dulls, I would say that dulls the ability to channel because channel is very present time.
Yeah.
Channeling is sources coming through me and giving me this information. And I don't talk that way. I'm talking to you this way. So I'm okay. Now I talk this way. I don't say that. The information just comes through. And I tell people started happening in workshops. So I teach workshops all over the world. And after every single workshop, someone would come up to me and say, "Oh, how do you channel?" I said, "What? How do you channel?" I'm like, "I'm not channeling." "Yes, you." And we'd have this discussion. And then the next workshop, and someone would say, "Oh, you're channeling. It looks like this and sounds like this." And I'm like, "What you're talking about?" Well, when 5, 6, 7 people tell you that, you start listening and go, I guess something's happening. I'd be on stage and there'd be a crowd, an audience, and somehow that triggers a safety response in me to let it come through.
Right.
And I do it certainly with individuals too, but that's when I was being told by other people, "Oh, yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are." And I just stopped fighting it eventually, right? And said, "Okay, I guess I am."
Did you find that hard coming from conventional, like you've been a psychotherapist a long time?
A long time, and the conventional was even more my background and what I believe in, and, then I started believing in all this stuff and, listening to those psychics and mediums and all of that and just loving that world, but here I was in a black suit, working at an agency, filling out forms, doing all that, doing my psychotherapy, and it was a bit of a split in me. So a lot of people didn't know that about me because I look the way I look with horn-rimmed glasses. Uh, and then it just started to integrate. And
Yeah.
now I can't separate it. So even if I'm at a family dinner or someplace else, that part of me, which is my heart, right? And information is how I talk, it's how I communicate, it's how I relate. Nobody's saying, "Oh, Carol's channeling at the dinner table," but it's different. I am integrated now.
Yes.
Before it was scary to go there and that was my work persona or something like that, but this is my traditional persona. Now we're all together. Now it's all in the same body and I can't help it and I don't want to help it, right?
No. And I feel that. I was like, prior to my brain injury, so 8 years ago, I had a couple car accidents. Prior to that, I was practical. I'd gotten a bit into the woo woo. I was like, I had studied some Wicca. I had studied, some metaphysical work, more just trying to figure out like, what is my truth?
Mm,
What is my truth? I was raised Anglican, kicked out of the church at 15 years old. I was a hellion at that point in my life. And so, what's my truth? And for a long time, I thought, well, if there is this God that everybody's taught me about, then he definitely doesn't love me. And so and that didn't feel right either, but I was really caught. And so it was probably my late 30s when I started to ask, like, what's my truth? And then that led me through, I found an energy worker that would release like trauma emotions, and then she would clear your chakras, and I always felt really good. I couldn't explain it to anybody. I was like, I don't know, it's weird, but I just feel really good after. And that was kind of the starting point. I started to play with pendulums and I explored Wicca. And then I was like, nope, that's not quite right for me. It felt like an ancient remembering, though. There's a piece of Wicca where I was like, this feels like something I've done before, like in another life. And I say that as a person that also at that time was like, I don't know if there's past lives. Like I'd never really explored any of those things. Not until I got hurt. And so when I got hurt, I was very practical, Western medicine, fix the problem. And I didn't understand coaching, which is hilarious to me now and my children.
Yes. Yes.
I I was like, yeah, I didn't get any of this world at all.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it opened. And when I opened to it and I started getting all these nudges, so the first time I heard that booming voice, the very first time was the day of my first accident while it was happening. And I'd never heard the voice before. And I remember everything went in slow motion. I could see her lose control of her vehicle. I was on a big highway. It was pouring rain. I'm holding on with both hands, and I hear this voice like right beside me say, "You asked for this." And I remember I turned and I looked because I was like, it's a little disconcerting when you hear it. And so, you fight to hold both of us on the highway and not go off the highway. We finish. 6 days later, it happened again.
Oh,
And so, yeah, which was in town, and both of those accidents individually, I would have recovered from. Like, all the doctors, like, you look at everything, they're like, "It's fine." But my autonomic nervous system, so it was my first understanding of nervous system dysregulation, like having full nervous system disorder. And so, my instead of getting better, I actually kept getting worse for 6 months. And the doctors couldn't understand what was happening. They're like, this is crazy," until it was like 3 years later before I understood what, like, that meant to have a nervous system disorder. And so, yeah, and after that happened, all of a sudden, that's when it began. It was like, I'd wake up and I would just know things. Like, I remember it was August 3rd. I guess it'll be 8 will be where are we at now? Almost 8 years. So 70 years ago, August 3rd last week, I woke up one morning and I'm like, "Oh, I'm supposed to read the Course in Miracles."
oh,
And my husband's like, "What?" And I'm like, "That's weird." And it was so strong, I couldn't explain it. I'm like, I would just wake up knowing things. And I'm like, "Okay." And I had the book. It was still wrapped in plastic because it freaked me out because it has pages like a Bible. And I
oh,
unwrapped it and I opened it up to the coursework and I started day 1. And at the time, I couldn't read. I was in neuro-optic therapy. My eyes were all like one would wander off on its own. Like yeah, it was quite a journey. And yet, if I sat at the table, I could read that. This little tiny printing in this book. And I would highlight and I would sit and I would meditate and I would think about what they were saying. And then it began. And it was like, the more I meditated, the stronger that the channeling began. And then it started happening with people. And I didn't know that what was happening for a long time. People would ask me a question and all of a sudden I would look up and then I would just start answering and talking to them and they'd be like, "What are you doing?" And I'd be like, "I'm just thinking." Like I couldn't cuz I'd never experienced anybody doing it. So then I was like a little terrified actually.
of course, with the new I would suggest it didn't happen all of a sudden. I would
Yeah.
suggest that it was brewing in there and you might have been getting little bits and pieces and shut it up, right? It never happens all of a sudden.
No.
Someone's
No,
triggered
and you're
this.
absolutely right. Yeah, I would have blocked the heck out of it. Yeah.
Chalked mine up to experience. Well, when you see thousands of people, right, and see the same pattern and the same family issue and the same dynamic, it's like you think you think you can see it coming. You think it's clear, it's obvious. It feels obvious to me, right?
Yeah.
Nope. It's not.
So what do you do to hone yours, or what did you do to really, like, once you start to realize what was going on, was there something that you did to strengthen that channel, that connection?
Yes and no. The more I try to capture it, the more it sort of disappears. So it would, as I said, it was happening with individuals, but it was happening every time I got on stage and did a class. So I just let it happen there, and then I'd be frustrated that I couldn't do it for myself. In other words, I couldn't get the answers that I needed. Right? I'd go on stage, whatever, and then I'd go back to my life. Then, in general, I have practices that I do every day, which is speed walking. And people say, "Oh, how many calories do you burn?" I don't know, and I don't care. I speed walk to move energy. I have to
Mm.
be in nature, find a park, get out there. I was just on the ocean for a week. So I do speed walking. I do meditation every single day, rain or shine. And I do my tapping on the acupuncture points every single day. And those three together, and I've done Qigong a lot, but I'm not doing it now. Those three practices together calm down anything that's the fight or flight. Tells my nervous system, you know what things are coming in, enjoy it, right? But I need to do those three practices every day. I do not skip a day. I could be 10 o'clock at night and I think, darn it, I didn't do my tapping. I have to do it. I don't skip days. I don't do it when I feel like it. These are my practices. So they strengthen, I would say, my centeredness and my groundedness and my ability to tolerate and handle other people's stuff because there's a lot of it. And when, like you, I see people all day long, there's a lot of information coming through. And this other thing that happened is when I lost my younger sister to cancer, after that, when you have a big grief in your life, you either go one direction or the other. And people started saying, "You're more available. What's going on?" So I did enough work about it that then it either kills you or it makes you stronger. So, and then had more grief happen. So I think I did my work on that so people feel safe that I can handle anything they bring to me, anything.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel safe, makes them feel safe, makes the space safe. And then that means stuff can come in if it needs to. Well, I don't push it. I don't ask for it. I don't demand it. I don't say, here it comes. If it comes, it comes.
Yeah.
Right? Because it really is about presence. Being with something. The healing is in the presence. We love our techniques. Right? Healing happens with presence. Right?
Agreed. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. We have a bit different on our morning rituals that we both do. Like for me, I know I start off, I wake up and I have a prayer. I say the same prayer every day. And then after that, I do breath work, which I call tethering ether and earth. And so I do some breath work to kind of create that grounding to kind of let any extra stress and that move around. And then from there, I do like what I call morning pages. So I journal dump to get all the chatter out of my head. I do some intention work with gratitude, as you and I have talked a lot about, because I love that your book. Yes, thank you. Right, the tapping into the power of gratitude. And so really learning to have that gratitude, which I mean, we've worked on that for myself. I'm always super honest in my podcast about like the things that I've gone through or am going through because we're always trying to release something. One of my questions I ask every morning in my journal is, what do I need to let go of today?
Mhm.
What is it that is in my way from having clarity, from moving forward? Like, what do I need to let go of? And so you and I have been working on a few things there of like letting go of traumas and part of the one that's come up for me is asking. And it's funny because even we've talked about this, part of it is like growing up in a church, having the audacity to ask for something from, this big omnipotent being that, who are you to ask for something? And the humanness of it, of some traumas that happened in my childhood that then were reinforced throughout life that asking for things is dangerous. And so I found that as I was doing like this work, I had to like really get into doing my rituals in the morning and centering myself
Yes.
so that I wouldn't get in my way.
That's where we're all struggling to do is not get in our own way, especially as
Yeah.
practitioners. Someone was asking me, "Oh, you still do your own tapping?" Of course I still do my own can you imagine being in this world? My life, my job, my family, my nieces and nephews that I was just with. Yeah, I still do my tapping because I'm still human, right? Someone said, "Oh, you've been doing it for years. Haven't you cleared everything?" No, no, I have not. Thank you very much. And life keeps throwing us curveballs, and If you live fully and live deeply, you love deeply. And when you love deeply, things affect you. There's an option. We could be disconnected, not present, kind of Teflon, but you and I are not people who are like that. We are
No.
deeply invested in our lives, our clients, our families in a good way, a healthy way. And as a result, we're going to have reactions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right. This morning I was noticing that. I was looping. I was like, oh, this is an interesting loop to be caught in. And it was a loop with an old client and one that I was like, this is out of my scope of practice. Like you need like more than what I can give. I'm a coach. And then this looping of like, it's so funny how sometimes the mind works of like not being good enough, like not having the skill to help them. And I was like, where is this coming from? Because they finally gotten a person that can help them and support them. And I was like, this is so interesting because it's not my thought, like it's not my belief. And I think like that's part of tapping is we get to get rid of some of these things in our head, and I love tapping, I think, because people can do it for themselves. It is very present. I had never experienced tapping really work until I started working with you. And I think part of that is because you do channel. You always seem to have like the perfect words and you're quite, and maybe that is as well some level of doing it for a long time. I mean, you're one of the founding EFT masters. But, for somebody that is just really, but I think it's presence. You're super present. You're not in your own head. You're not thinking about things. You're like so present that you just trust the information coming through. And so it really hits point, right? And so we can see this stuff in like when you're doing shamanic work. I've done lots of, you and I both, right? We've gone through lots of different, we both have, I've talked with mediums. I've talked with, I've got a spiritual director. I've done energy work with all sorts of people and they've all got beautiful places to be. One of the things I do like about tapping is there's a level of accountability. Nobody's doing it for you. So even when I do like my energy work, even though I do a shamanic part of it and body coding, I always ask the question, are you ready to let go of this? And it's because I want the person to take responsibility. I want them to be involved in it, right? Not just let me do it for them.
What's interesting about our field? So I've been on summits forever, like a summit, 20 speakers, and they put out on a topic. And it started to turn this direction where people only wanted the kind of healers or practitioners where they close their eyes and the person goes, and the problem is gone. And they open their eyes. Did you feel that? And I don't like that because there's no accountability and there's an external she or he is doing it to me and giving it to me. And it's no, no, no. I like you like to take responsibility and have the person really examine it. And if they don't want to change, they don't have to change because it's not me. That's not my agenda. I don't have an agenda anymore. That's the other thing that has happened over the years. I used to be invested in the outcome. I'm not invested in the outcome. I'm invested in my clients, but not in the outcome.
It's such a good differential to make. Yeah. Yeah, it took me a long time to get there. Like as a coach, you think like how your clients are doing is says what if whether or not you're any good, right? And there is an entanglement that happens, but you're right. It's like, no, I'm invested in you, but you're the one that has to make choices. You're the one that has to have free will. It's about teaching people to hold their power, to be their own healer, and you hold space to allow for that to work together. You don't have to walk it alone, but you do have to lead the way. I can be here with you. And
Such
that's very different.
such a privilege, right, to hold the space. I mean, that's our
Absolutely.
privilege. That's and healers who start to think they're doing it for other people, it's like, no, they've lost some connection, right? Back to the original definition of channeling, it's a connection. It's a connection that is allowed to strengthen and be there and be clear as a bell because you're peaceful, quiet, and not trying to do an agenda for the client, not trying to hope for an outcome. Yeah, we all want our clients and ourselves to feel better, sure, but that's different. You have to detach from that and say, and it's their path. They are on
Yeah.
their path, I'm on my path. If it takes this long, it takes this long.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love that so much. What so how long ago was it that you realized you were channeling?
Well, I fought it for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So, I've probably only in a few last few years been able to admit it. So I've been doing
Mm,
it for a long time, and I look back at workshops 10 years ago and, whatever, and I think I remember going up, there was this famous healer, and her husband was the big cheese healer, and he was 80 something, and everybody wanted a session with him because he was at this workshop, and I went up and said, "Please, could I have a session?" And, he's got the connection, whatever, and the wife looks at me, who was taking over his business and doing it also, and she said, "Why do you need a session with my husband? You've already got the connection." And I went, "What?" Like, this woman is like, so it's like, how many times do you fight it before you finally say, "Mm-hmm"? When 10 people say you look like a horse, you better go buy a saddle and
right?
go to the racetrack. There's an old joke about that. It's like, get the message, get the message. So probably between 10 and 15 years, but admitting it, probably more like between maybe about 5.
Is there times in your life, whether it's career or personal, where you've had those moments and you finish them just being kind of blown away by it?
And say it
Where you
again.
really like, you're blown away by it, like, where you finish and you're like, "Whoa." Like, yeah,
Yes, because when I'm not thinking like a normal person when I'm in it. So the more present I am, the more it happens. And then later it's like, oh, what just happened? Like when I was telling you this last weekend, I was helping someone and I put my hands on her feet and she said, "What the heck are you doing?" Like, "I don't know." Well, I got some message. I don't touch, this was a cousin, right? I don't clap on people. I teach them how to do it, and I don't hold on to people. And it was like I got a message because I was peaceful and quiet and trying to help her, genuinely trying to help her. And she said, "You have magic hands. What are you doing?" She's a nurse. She doesn't talk this way. You know what I mean? She doesn't talk airy fairy the way woo woo the way you do and I do, right? And so later I was driving and I was like, "Oh, that was weird. That was cool. Like, that was weird." Oh, because I don't usually do it with hands on. I've done it through the screen, through Zoom, and done things with my hands. But I do it with the tapping and the intention and the thoughts and the feelings. And so that was kind of cool. And it was one of those blown away, like, huh, guess I better get on board with this because something's happening. As I say, of all the people to not try to make me feel good, say something that's a little out there, because I hang out with woo, right? You and we hang out with woo woo people, right? So to have someone who's a nurse by profession and, for her to say that was like, okay, I can't deny, how much longer am I going to deny this stuff? Right. But I do my
absolutely.
job, I do my work, it happens, and then I, go home and eat dinner. It's kind of woven into my life. It's not the button. Someone asked me, do you turn it on, turn it off? I don't think so. I think some people do. Some people need to, and some people do. Okay, now I don't start it. I don't say, okay, now I'm starting channeling. I sit in the chair or on the couch or behind the Zoom and it comes through when I'm focused, careful, present, and witnessing. That idea of holding space. I love that, right? Holding space and witnessing, that's when you allow it to come through. Whatever message it is, whatever leaning, message, intention, image. I get images, I'm sure. I just wish I was really seeing something more that you and I are going to work on.
I'm with you, yes, and you're right, like, there's times where there's, like, this kind of I could explain it, could describe it to somebody, but I always think of it as how I guess I see a memory, so whereas my expectation is, I don't know, to see it with my eyes. It's we reconnect back in with our limbs again, right? Yeah,
The reconnecting is so wonderful. So I've been to people who see things very, very specifically. I'm seeing a green this and a blue this, and the person's taking their arm, whatever. So I've been to people who see that way. And that's where I think it started this, oh, that's channeling, but feeling it isn't. I think that was part of my argument too, is like, I just know stuff, just know stuff. It's not really channeling. No, 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 that's channeling.
yeah,
Don't have to see
yeah,
a parade of people coming through the doorway to call it.
yeah,
So, it's practice. It's practice without trying too hard to practice and just understanding and knowing. And then people confirm it and say, "Well, Carol, you're channeling. Like, get over it. You're channeling." "Yeah, but what would so and so say?" It's like, shut up, stop, just do it.
totally.
We're
I
reluctant.
remember when I was doing,
Interesting. Well, I want to ask you and me so we can tell the audience, how could they use channeling for themselves, but not our channeling, their own? Like, What would
Mm,
you say to them? They don't have to go to a shaman, they don't have to go to a medium, they don't have to go anywhere to learn it, you don't have to read a book. How could they use a simple form of channeling to help
I love
them
that.
get answers in their life?
Absolutely. You want me to answer first?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So this is probably one of the reasons why I like tethering. So I like to do an energetic tether to start myself every day to come back into my body. Because when we go to sleep at night, deep sleep is a place where we, from soul to body, there's a disconnect. We get to be a little more free from here. We're not tethered in. So I like to retether. So I do breath work. So a 4 count inhale and 8 count exhale. So relaxation breath. And then I start anchoring. I actually just recorded this last week for a client and put it on YouTube, tethering ether and earth. And so I'll breathe into my pelvis, anchor down into the earth, connecting into the quantum healing field grids, connecting into unity consciousness, Gaian consciousness, that crystalline core, and then draw up. And then do the same. So roots going upward, connecting into the quantum healing field grids, connecting into unity consciousness, Mother, Father, God, Source, and then draw down. And so creating this connection point. So you're really energetically allowing the energy to flow. And then at that point, I'll come into my heart and then just open. And so that's like, for me, would be like a starting point of get grounded. Like you said, you have to be present. So I think anchoring back into the body, but not into the stories
Yes.
that we think of as who is Dawn. Like, not those stories, but just be right here now. And so to anchor in and to start following the breath. And I find like the breath the easiest way to help guide people into their own wisdom again. We have every answer we need available to us. You're so right. We don't need mediums. We don't need these things. We go to them because we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust the messages that we're getting. Or we're so not present that they're not coming through. They're trying, like it's never turned off. I think that those messages are trying to get through. It's just there's a lot of noise that's in the way, right?
I think that's what happened to me is that I was clearing up the noise for other reasons. I was working on my own anxiety and my own grief and my own feelings, and it happened naturally. So I would tell people to understand their fears and their beliefs about it. That's what I was caught up. But I don't channel. Moi? Yeah, I'm not a channeler. What do you mean? I'm a traditional psychotherapist. You deal with feelings. So if you could use tapping or another tool to clear your fear of it, right? Many people, they weren't taught are able to do it. They don't know what it sounds like, or when it comes, sounds like or feels like or looks like. When it comes, they go, that's not that. That's just a weird thought, right? And then their beliefs are, I shouldn't, I don't know how, I'm not supposed to, whatever background you came from. So if you take care of those, there's a natural process, and then you can do the prayers, the grounding, the crystal work, that just strengthens your container to say, I'm here and it's safe for information to come through. I was talking to a very fascinating channeler, and I said, oh, you're just saying that to make me feel better. And he said, if I do that, I lose the connection. And it was like all I needed. I was like, I got it. I got it. He said, if I give anybody the wrong information or misleading information or try to soft pedal it, I will lose my connection and I'm not given information anymore. And it changed something about how I see it, respect it, think it's, but it's so useful is what I'm trying to say. It's like getting your yes and your no for people listening who think, oh, I can't channel. I'd have to go to Dawn. You actually don't. You could channel. Think of it as just being quiet enough to hear the whispers that are like, oh, go over here. Oh, go over here. Oh, suggest this. Oh, eat this for dinner. It can be pretty basic, right? We don't have to talk about whopping metaphysical information. It can be very basic. It's like trusting your guidance. So I start the day with a meditation in bed. I'm lying down and I hands on chest, hands on heart chakra, and I do my meditation that way. And that just before the monkey mind gets started. And is it always quiet? No, no. I heard someone the other day say, hug the monkey. Okay, I gotta hug the monkey a lot and say, you're okay, you're safe. Right? And that starts my day. That changed my life when I started with meditation rather than trying to fit it in during my day. Oh, when can I do it? I wonder if I could do it before dinner. That's not useful. That's not helpful. I need a ritual every morning now. Changed a lot for me. So basically, I
Abs-
wanted people to understand that they can find their own ways of being clear and quiet. Those are the two things. If you're clear and quiet, you can get a lot of information. People don't want to be clear and quiet. They're scared of it. And that's a big part of my work. Well, what would happen if you were quiet? What? I don't want to be still. What do you mean? I got to do this. I know that. That's my life. I know that, right? I don't do that anymore, but I certainly went through those periods of do not want to slow down. When you slow down, you feel stuff,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
everything that's there. So
Yeah.
thus the over busy syndrome is born, right?
Gosh. And I think you're right. Like I was talking previously in some other episodes, I kept saying, I even am cautious sometimes now about I'm trying to get out of the habit of calling it a healing journey
Mm, mm,
and preferring the language of a letting go journey because they're just experiences, things have happened and we've been part of them. Like we have our experiences and we've had these events. But when we think of it as healing, then we think of it as being broken and we think of being victimized. Whereas when we think of it as a letting go journey, yes, that did happen. That is an experience that happened. I'm still here and I'm present, so I can let go. I can let go of the emotional entanglements, the beliefs, the thought forms that go with them. I can hold the wisdom from the experience, like you said, because I'm safe, I'm present. So I can let go of these things now, which is why I've started this let go journey of what can I let go of now? What do you need me to let go of today? What do I need to be aware of that I'm not aware of that I need to let go? And so I think of like every time one of my, wounds gets bumped, I'm like, oh, yep, didn't know that one was coming. Got it. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to know. I text you all the time and I'm like, got a new one for us. Cause, what was that a couple weeks ago? Compliments are dangerous.
mhm, mhm.
And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then my husband's like, oh, yeah, you even flinch when you repeat a compliment. And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll message Carol." We'll need to tap on whatever the heck that's coming from because that's not
Need to
good,
tap on.
and you always have these really cool ways of seeing things. A compliment when you accept a compliment, it's really about the other person, and you're allowing them to share that gift, and so you can it's no longer dangerous because you're just allowing somebody to share something,
And,
which is be
what we always say, because you and I are nervous system experts, really, right?
yeah,
I always, we are wired for safety, not for success. So all we're trying to do is be safe. And if you tried to be safe by saying compliments are dangerous, you got it somewhere. You grow up in France, you speak French. I grew up in the Look family. I got all my stuff from my family, right? So we're just trying to keep ourselves safe. And we need to get that we've been bumped up to first class. One time I did a workshop in Ireland and they sent me first class and I'd never gone first class. So I'm like freaked out, like I don't understand, right? The woman, the flight attendant is like, "Can I take your coat?" No, 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 I got it. No, no, she was gonna hang it up, right? "Would you like another course for dinner?" It's like, "No, no, I'm good." I didn't understand. It was like I didn't belong there, right? We get bumped up to first class, we get quiet, we get peaceful, we get present, information comes through, and then we can walk in our life feeling secure and settled and spirit, God, universe, I don't care what you call it, nothing, nature has my back.
yeah.
This is a co-creation. So it's not just a healing journey because we're all so broken, as you said. What could I let go of today? What assumption, what belief that is no longer serving me that I need to be bumped up and understand? I need to catch up. I need to catch up to where I am. We all need to
Yeah,
catch up. And so if we're quiet and still enough, we get more information to help us get back on the right path instead of like going down the same dark alley over and over again.
absolutely. I love that you put it that way. I always say to everybody, we've got 4 things. Like, I'm always looking like, are you doing it for safety, for security, for love or belonging? Or are you doing this to not lose safety, security, love, and belonging? Right. So one of those 2 pieces, and you're right, we're wired for that. We're wired to feel safe and connected in this world. And so when we let those things go, when we can start to release them and recognize, because I come from a spiritual coaching side, I'm like, well, but you're supposed to get them from you. You're supposed to give yourself safety. You're supposed to give yourself security. You're supposed to give yourself love, and you're supposed to belong to you. And then when we start going inward, it doesn't mean that we don't have that with the rest of the world. But once we start going in, then we can get even more. So it's like you let go of all these, false attachments that you're supposed to get them from out there. And so that's like these pieces, like you tap and it's like you just get to let that go. And it's like, oh, that's so lovely. I'm not tethered to that anymore. It's like you're breaking all these strings and now all of a sudden you get to be free again. And that's the way we were designed to be, is to be conduits of divine power, divine energy, divine love to flow through us all the time.
And
And
all those
we just got to get this
blocks,
stuff out of the way.
all those blocks were useful at one time.
Yes.
But if you want to be a clearer conduit for any job you have, any entrepreneurship, any part of your family, be a conduit between you and your body, you need to do what you're suggesting,
Yeah.
right? And understand
Yeah.
that we're just trying to be safe. Stop. I have a big thing about stop criticizing yourself for procrastinating or for being a people pleaser or for having some block that you seem to not want to get over. Don't worry about it. You're just doing it to feel safe. Figure out the next layer underneath that, and then you can let it go.
Yeah.
So the journey of letting go, I love that. The journey of letting
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, and I love that you just said that because I talked about that even this morning in our mystical morning. I was like, stop criticizing yourself. We don't need to make our poor little ego neurotic. Like it's already enough in there. Compassion and curiosity are characteristics of our soul. Criticism is not. And so once we start to like, oh yeah, right, that's not really me. That's not the true self that is speaking when I do that. That's fear. That's, something else that's coming up.
Habit.
Yeah.
It's habit, and it won't get you anywhere. That helped me when someone taught me that. Habit, you're used to it. You got the voice going, that critical voice. It will not get you anywhere. Oh, I thought it would get me somewhere. I thought if I'm hard on myself, it would get me further. Nope. Fact
Nope.
weighs you down.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I was just watching the time because I know that you've got another appointment that is coming up. Carol, I just love everything that you do, and I love your books. So again, Carol is the best-selling author of Yes, Thank You, her newest book, and her first book, The Yes Code, which is her coaching program as well. It's incredible. Carol, I absolutely love you. Can you just let everybody know how they can find you if they want to work with you, join one of your programs, do one-on-one coaching because you do both of those things?
Sure. You could go to my regular website, which is carollook.com. Or if they don't want to buy the book and they want all the videos, go to theyescode.com/thank you. It'll say, thank you for buying my book. Put your name in and you'll get the videos. If you want all the free videos, don't buy the book. You don't have to buy the book. Go to that link and you can get a bunch of free tapping videos that's about letting go process. What's in your way of being grateful? What's in your way of really being present and being the person you need to be?
Oh, I love it. I love how you always are just so giving. And I just love that. I love that. And thank you all for being here with us today. This is really a shout out to you. You are your own channel. You are your own healer. You are the one that needs to love yourself. That's your job. Love yourself. You can like yourself later. So thank you so much for being here with us. I appreciate you. I love you. And remember, I see the light in you and it is brilliant. And I want you to see it too.
Thank you, Dawn. Love you.